Good afternoon, ladies and gents. This is Joshua Blake, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about my project here for music appreciation with Dr. Conklin. Um, so, I want to talk a little bit about the Baroque influence in pop culture today, and more specifically, I chose this song "Viva La Vida" by Coldplay, which is one of my favorites. And I know this is not like a brand new song. However, this is just an example of being able to find the Baroque influence in pop culture today. So again, today we're going to talk about how Viva La Vida reflects some Baroque techniques, especially when we compare them to the ground bass or ostinato. Um, Talking about Viva La Vida in general, you have a ground bass tradition and you have a Baroque influence. So the first thing I want you guys to do is just listen closely to the intro that I'm going to play for you here, and just keep that in mind. All right. So again, the main focus of my project is examining harmony, texture, and instrumentation of both Coldplay's Viva La Vida and also just comparing it to a few different examples of some Baroque music. So again, I'm going to play you a next clip. It's going to be about 45 seconds to a minute and 15, minute and 20. And listen for the repeated harmonic patterns in Viva La Vida. Okay, listen for the repeated bass pattern that continues throughout, and then the layered instrumentation that adds that texture. So just really quickly, again, I want to highlight that repeated bass pattern, and then as the song progresses, you have that layered instrumentation that just adds a lot of texture to the song itself. So let's talk about what is ground bass. Ground bass is a repeating bass pattern, continuous harmonic loop. The melody changes above it. So the whole time while the melody is changing, there is a continuous harmonic loop or repeating bass that is the commonality or the bottom line, if you will. I guess the best way to explain it in layman's terms. But the melody continues to change above it. So now I want to take just a few seconds, about 40 seconds of Purcell's Dido's Lamont or Lament. I'm not sure how to pronounce that exactly, but um, listen for the ground bass and how it repeats continuously while the melody varies above it. Obviously, there's going to be some differences in the vocals and things like that in this piece, but I want you to pay specific attention to the ground bass. So here, that's that ground bass. It starts out. So again, keep in mind, you notice that the ground bass continues throughout the whole thing. It's continuous and repeats itself while the melodies continue to vary above it. So comparing that, I've actually found this very useful video that kind of shows the progression of Viva La Vida and how the entire song, basically the bass continues and repeats. The harmony stays constant, right? But then the texture continues to build. I picked this piano piece because I wanted you to see how that looks and maybe give you a better visual aspect of that, so you can for it to help understand what we're talking about when we say the bass or the ground bass, similar to ground bass in Baroque music. So notice the cyan colors is what we're looking at here. So think about the dark blue as the texture that continues to build with other instrumentation in the actual live song. Here in the piano, it's just going to be just the piano, right? So, but notice how the cyan color, it stays constant. And now compare that to Dito's lament. I'm gonna say lament because I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it again, but my apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. But it's this descending repeated bass. It creates an emotional intensity, and Purcell uses this repeatedly to make that emotional inevitability occur in his music. Um, so let's compare and contrast this to what we've previously seen with Viva La Vida on the piano specifically. This time you have blue and green that as the keynotes, but let's look at it. The blue is going to end up being your ground bass that's repeated, and the green is going to be your texture, right, that continues to build throughout. Now I know this is on piano, so we've simplified the music just so that you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about with the repeated bass and how it reaches like an inevitable point. All right, absolutely love that. An example. Another one that I want to show is Folia by Corelli. So this is another one from the Baroque era, and in this you'll notice that the harmony again stays constant while instrumentation and texture change, and it does vastly. So I'm going to compare this piece to another piece within Viva La Vida. So just keep that in mind when you listen to this. We're going to compare it to a certain part of Viva La Vida, and let you kind of hear the similarities there. So listen for that fixed harmonic pattern having the variations above the chords and then our texture and how it evolves. All right, so great fixed harmonic pattern there, and then of course the variation above the chords, which allows that texture to continue to evolve in there. And if we use that and we talk about the ostinato, right, within Viva La Vida and how that is similar to the Baroque motor rhythm that we just listened to in the previous, you will notice that you have that almost same motor rhythm, and it just drives the momentum of the song. So just wait for it. Here it comes up. So absolutely love this part of the song. It's one of my favorite parts, and it really captures it and just keeps that momentum and driving the song forward and keeping that rhythm going. But also, you notice this same bass continued in Viva La Vida while it continues to drive that momentum with that repeated rhythmic pattern. All right, so now if we're comparing the two, right, you have the orchestral sound in Viva La Vida and how it resembles that Baroque texture. The prominent strings here in Viva La Vida would be the timpani, you have piano and bass guitar, and of course, we want to also compare it to that orchestral texture. So we'll continue the song from here and let you guys listen to that. So you hear the timpani, bass guitar, and then you have that orchestral texture that kind of comes in above everything else. Meanwhile, you have that same bass continue throughout the whole song. Alrighty. So, and this slide is just kind of a little bit more informative. But in the Baroque, you have the cello and the harpsichord. Um, and then, of course, in modern, it's more of your bass guitar and piano. But they function very similarly. So when we're comparing the two, typically speaking, in your Baroque, again, you have different instruments, but they function very similarly. It's just going to sound a little bit different in today's pop music, for instance, like in Viva La Vida. Both provide that harmonic foundation beneath the actual melody. So why does this still work today? Well, clearly the Baroque structural techniques still create emotional power, and I 100% feel this, especially in the Viva La Vida. I absolutely, again, I can't talk about how much I actually love this song, and the lyrics and everything else is really, really great. But the build up and intensity within the song and the momentum is just really drives this thing forward. That repetition creates that memorability for us. Um, the harmonic stability builds that emotion, and then of course layering that texture increases the intensity of the song as we go along. So we're going to listen to the last part of Viva La Vida. So it's 3 minutes, and I think it goes to about 4-ish minutes. So just bear with me. So here we start hearing the layered texture. We're having some vocals in there. All right. So, in conclusion, Viva La Vida really demonstrates that Baroque compositional thinking that remains very much so alive in modern pop today. I more specifically wanted to talk about Viva La Vida because I absolutely love this song, and a lot of the principles are found from Baroque music and Baroque style within it. So it is a modern song. It does have that Baroque structural influence with that ground bass principle, which and then you have your melody that adds that texture throughout, and the different layers of the texture that go above that ground bass principle. So it really ties everything in this song specifically, which is another reason why I chose this one. But this is just one example of modern pop of where that you can hear it. I'm going to attempt to play this video for you. It may have ads or otherwise, so just bear with me if there are. Um, but that way you can listen to this rendition of Viva La Vida as an orchestra cover. Oh, I guess I can't skip the ad. Sorry about the Georgia Power, guys. It's probably not gonna let me skip either. So yeah, nope. Alrighty, now to the video I actually wanted you guys to see. Thanks for staying tuned. So credits to Captain Missile Orchestra for producing this. I do not own the rights to this video. Um, but hopefully you guys now understand what I meant by like the layering of the different instruments and the instrumentation that you have and how that creates that texture in the song. Because now you can apply it and actually see that inside of this orchestrated version of how that sounds versus just a using more modern instruments. All right, guys, that is all that I have for you today. Thank you for tuning in and listening to me talk about how Viva La Vida is a just a variation of a modern song that does bring in that Baroque structural influence. Um, Thanks again.